We do not let our anger get the best of us. Service, compassion, mercy, those are the words we live by. That is our code. It's the most important thing in the world.
My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerded's Newsstand, and I want to talk a little bit more about Jupiter's Legacy. Now, yesterday I talked about season 1. I reviewed it. I was mildly disappointed, but I still think as a series, as such a great series, it could be saved. And I think it could still pique people's interest. And I want to talk about where I think they need to go, what I think they need to explore, and the themes, and not only the themes, but the big surprises they need to include in season 2. So, spoilers for both the comic and season 1 that is out on Netflix right now. But if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe if you're enjoying this type of content. As always, hit like, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And of course, let's get right into it. Brainwave. We're going to open up on Brainwave having that talk that Utopian asked him to do with Brandon, but not in the way that he asked him to. He is going to talk to him to sow further division for that lack of that need for that code. Not only him, but we're going to see him talking to multiple people. And do an episode or so of him getting his superhero, or rather supervillain team together that are willing to take on and do what needs to be done with Grace and with Sheldon. And at the same time, have a huge argument between Chloe and Hutch over their doomed relationship, right? And finally reveal what I think needed to be revealed in season 1 is that Chloe is pregnant. And that is going to be what mends them to make them realize that it doesn't matter. He is the son of the biggest supervillain. Doesn't matter. She's the daughter of the world's biggest superhero. They can do stuff together. It's not a doomed relationship. And this also comes along with the promise to go straight and the promise to her child to not only be raised the same way that she was, but to have more choices, to have more freedom, less demeaning. All of those things she wants to do right. Now, they separate, of course, not separate, but they go their own ways for the time being. And Hutch is visited by Sheldon, revealing that he knows about Chloe's pregnancy and starts to begin to drill him on Skyfox, still believing in his brother. As they are separated, Chloe then visits her mother to tell her about her pregnancy. The Utopian then takes off in order to stop this huge comet, only to realize that it is lined with nukes, and Hutch immediately panics and transports to Chloe, worried that this might all be a setup. Well, back with Chloe, we see Brainwave, and he has him in a mental state of still just having this talk about the code, but in real life, they are killing and badly beating Lady Liberty. Once they finally do, though, figure out what's going on and snap out of it, we see Brainwave deliver that final blow to Lady Liberty that we saw in the comics via a stroke, and she is gone. Hutch shows up just in time to save Chloe, and they bounce around the world, trying to lose all the people that are following them. They go from country to country, state to state, and they eventually do lose them. But next we see Brainwave and Brandon, right? And they are in the desert with the Utopian, who is badly beaten down because as he fell from the comet, from the nuke, he was low on power, right? And all of Brainwave's lackeys are beating upon him, and Brandon steps in, delivering the final blow by using his laser vision. And if you remember in season 1, they specifically said he did not have that yet. So this would be the first time he ever used his laser vision right through his skull. And it fades to black super dramatically, right? So that's when we're going to get a time skip. And we're going to skip 7 years into the future and hear something along the lines of, Mom, are you going to tuck me in? Mom, are you going to tell me a story? And Chloe and Hutch walk into young Jason's room, telling him stories of, well, Chloe is telling him stories of his grandparents, what they stood for, how they got married, how they were the world's greatest superheroes. And Hutch tells her, Chloe, quit boring the kids with stories of the good old days. But Jason likes it. He wants the bad guys to be brought to justice, and Chloe kind of shuts it down at that. And this is why, telling and explaining, this is why Jason, Hutch, and Chloe all have to hide. This is why you have to act the way you do. And not understanding as the audience, the act the way you do part, we see a montage of Jason at school, purposefully failing or doing very poorly in school. We see a soccer game with Jason doing the worst, being the worst on the team. And we also see, the neighborhood bullies beating him up. He doesn't mind. He actually kind of finds it funny. And the next day they wake up for breakfast and we hear an alarm for a fire. Now, Jason yells down to his parents. He'll be right there. He's coming down for breakfast. And we actually see him secretly change into his superhero outfit and that he personally designed. And he goes out and he's back just in time for breakfast, right? We are introduced to this changing world, a world created by Brainwave and the Paragon, or Brandon, betterly known. It opens up on the White House with with Brandon as president. And he's been in presidency the entire time. And he's actually gotten rid of term limits amongst many other unconstitutional policies, but he's really angry at this time. All of what his uncle Brainwave told him and all of what he has taught him and what he's implemented isn't working. There's still unemployment. They're still hungry. There's still a climate crisis. They're still rioting. And so much so that it's right outside the White House doors. You see a mass amount of protesters outside his doors. Brandon runs out and yells at them, "Go home, you assholes." And they go flying back just by his words, and only to stand up and applaud, yelling praises. And Brandon's confused, but he's not exactly sure why. We cut to Brainwave in the windowsill of the White House, and it's clearly hinted upon that he's messing with Brandon's perception to keep him happy and to keep him moving forward. So the next morning at the board meeting they do every morning in the White House, we see Brandon is upset that they haven't found Chloe yet. And one intern says they heard about a superhero in Australia, but they don't know if it's actually anything. It could be nothing at all. Brandon is clearly mad. He is just hearing about this and sends Barnabas Wolf on the case. Now, Barnabas is basically been the whole time their right-hand man. He goes down. He has been hunting these rogue supervillains who have fought out against them. He either puts them in supermax or he simply executes them in public to instill fear. But Barnabas, he heads to Australia, actually not questioning Chloe, who he thinks it is, but Chloe's supervisor. And, Chloe at that moment really isn't worried. She wants to get out of there, but she's not worried because it's not her. And Joan is just a normal person, as normal as they come, right? As Barnabas questioned Joan, he simply asked her very basic questions. Why hasn't she paid a heating bill in 7 years? Or why hasn't she had any travel expenses in 7 years? Why hasn't she seen a doctor in several years? All of these answered in a simple way, right? I haven't been sick. I'm broke. I don't travel. I don't have a car. Until she realizes everyone around her is on the floor. Barnabas has rearranged the air molecules to something very similar to knockout gas, and she goes running out the door, out the window, and she grows as tall as the building itself. That is when we are introduced to a brand new hero, Shelley Weaver, aka Skyscraper. Now, Shelley is actually quickly taken down, and we see a text that is sent to Barnabas. As he opens it, we see an image of Jason. Now, he doesn't know it's Jason at this point, but all it says is, I think we found another metahuman, right? Shelley's arrested, and this gives Chloe time to escape and get home to Hutch and Jason, but Jason isn't there. After searching throughout all of his room and freaking out, she notices some particles similar to the structure of the moon on the bottom of his normal sneakers that he wears and heads to space to find her son building a contraption that can find other metahumans. Now, Jason, he's very smart. He's got a lot of what his mom has and even more of a brain than you could ever imagine. But he wants to get a group together of criminals with those meta capabilities to take down Walter and Brandon. But Chloe makes him dismantle the machine, actually screaming at first, but eventually does calm down and explains the complexity of the situation and why they cannot risk this. So they return home and life continues as normal. The next day, Jason goes out, and while sitting on the bus, he overhears the radio. And the radio basically says to avoid a certain bridge because it looks like a terrorist type attack. Well, Jason hears this. He runs out of the bus, just instantly out of the bus. Everybody sees him. And his best friend, Molly, who's been his friend and basically has protected him a lot of the times, just yells at the kids and says, the door fell off. The door fell off by itself. Do you hear me? And all the kids around here are protecting Jason and his identity. Jason then arrives at the bridge and actually realizes it is a trap from Barnabas. A fight starts. And Barnabas really does get the upper hand. He's a kid, right? Jason's crying on the ground. He's crying, Mommy, can you come help me? Mommy, can you come get me? And Barnabas kind of mocks Jason, right? And says, there's no way your mommy will hear you. And this is a little bit pathetic. Well, just then we see Chloe come in and say, you're wrong. You are wrong. I heard him. So a massive fight ensues. And Chloe and Barnabas really dish it out for quite a while, leaving Jason a little bit vulnerable. Well, that's when Hutch comes in and does save his son. This is where I would like to see them insert one of my favorite lines from the comic book, and that is between Chloe and Barnabas. Chloe looks at Barnabas and says, I'm not that little girl anymore. My mom was a superhero. My dad was a superhero. I won this fight before you even got out of bed. And that's when she delivers the final blow. And an end to Barnabas. So Hutch grabs her and they teleport to a safe house, which is actually at the North Pole. And Chloe asks Jason if he can rebuild the machine to find the metahumans to start getting people together to take on his brother in Brainwave. Hutch says there's no need. And that's when we see Hutch put his hand to his head. All of this time, as Skyfox's son, we thought he had no powers. The machine appears. And that's the end of the first season. Now, I know that seems like it's only probably about 3-4, less than a week time. But they did the first one so stretched out in time, keeping time shorter may actually work in their benefit. And I think I put a lot of what was great in the comic about this and also added something like Skyfox having powers. It didn't make sense that his dad was just made him a bolt, like a transportation bolt, like Blue Bolts, with just a flashlight and some aluminum foil. It didn't make sense. So now we have a little bit of an explanation to those type things, but I think it can work. I think it can work very, very well. It just takes time and it just takes good planning and staying true a little bit to the source material, unlike what they did in the first one. So anyways, let me know, of course, what you guys think about my prediction for the second season, what we can expect. And I don't know. I'd love to see a cute little Jason running around. Best part of this season. Okay, I have a soft spot for kids. I can't help it. Let me know. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.